It's the middle of the year, and personally, I haven't had as many great reads as I was hoping for. So I asked you guys both on Reddit and on Instagram what were the best reads for you, and just please recommend because I want them. I got more than 600 comments on Reddit and a bunch of recommendations on Instagram, and the results are amazing. I'm blown away by these recommendations. I've already started to read them, and I am not disappointed. So I figured today, let's bring not only the booktube hype book recommendations, but also what other people like you have been reading, what have been the 5-star reads, and here we'll go to the top 20, the most recommended. And I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little bit off, I'm still a little bit under the weather, but this list, it's the bomb, and I really wanted to bring it back to you before we keep moving with the year. So in the top 20, we have Scythe. I've heard about this so much, and the premise really fascinates me. I've still not read it, but it's a trilogy that it's concluded and it has fans all over. It leans more towards the young adult side, but it has conquered the hearts also of those more seasoned adult fantasy readers. In this case, we'll have the premise of a world where it seems that humanity cannot die anymore. And as a result, we will have these people trained as reapers, and they are going to be the ones deciding who dies. We will follow the story of different characters embarking themselves on this journey. It seems to be very fast-paced, very engaging, and it definitely touches topics that sound really interesting to me. So if you've known this book already, let me know. In the top 19, I got recommended so often The Bound and the Broken by Ryan Cahill, especially the first book of Blood and Fire. This is an epic fantasy saga that it's all about war. It draws a little bit around those classic fantasy topics where we will start with this guy that it's about to pass some trials, but then some more seasoned warriors coming to his town and something happens, a war is about to be unfolded, and of course his destiny will be changed. I've heard so many good things about it, that this author is a beast, that he's not only able to convey his stories that are emotional, but that the pacing, it's outstanding. So I got this one also on my Kindle, and I cannot wait to get into it really soon. In the top 18, we have Legends and Ladders. It's been already kind of like a year since I read it, and I'm still in awe about how much I loved this cozy, low-stakes fantasy story. We will mainly follow our main girl, who is an ogre, and she wants to run away from her past. She was, in a nutshell, killing people, killing things, and now she has a dream of opening a coffee shop, and she will do so, and the story will follow her and chasing her dream. And it is very cozy, it is very soothing, it's perfect if you want something in between reads. And I'm not surprised that this book is coming time and time again, both from very famous booktubers and, you know, lots of other people, because this is really something that it just makes it, right? If you want something cute, this will be for you. In the top 17, we have a new release of this year that I haven't read yet, and that is A Day of Fallen Night, which is the prequel from The Priory of the Orange Tree. Now, this is not only an outstanding book cover, but it seems that the story will take the most incredible things from Priory and it will improve them. This story happens around 500 years before, and we will still see this massive story divided across the land, where we will see still dragons and also a power that it's emerging. The characters are crafted in a way that it seems to be way more nuanced and were more character driven, and I'm just dying for that. In the top 16, we have The Justice of Kings, which is personally one of my favorite books of this year so far. So every time that I've heard this book, as well as the second book, Tyranny of the Faith, I'm like, yay! Of course, yes, this is fantastic. It is a great blend between something that it's very political, but at the same time it's religious. It has a magic system that feels different, in that it's surrounded to death, and you have this elden great magic where you can command people to tell the truth, but you can also speak to the death. Fairly dark, but it wasn't as much, and it really made it for me. Top 15, and completely different vibe, we have Emily Wiles Encyclopedia of Fairies. So probably you've already heard about this book. It was released at the beginning of the year and it is just coziness. We will follow this character and all her mission is to create an encyclopedia of fairies, and she will move to the north to a very isolated place in order to do so. The great thing about this story is that our main character, it's a little bit of a misfit, an enemies to lovers. It is sweet and it's funny, and it's really a read that will soothe you while keeping some pretty hilarious and funny moments. In the 14th position, we have Gunmetal Gods, which wasn't a book that I've had before, but it was pitched time and time again, and I've gotten this on my Kindle already. And hear me out, because the blurb, it's pretty amazing. It talks about the Arabian Nights blended with Game of Thrones with Lovecraftian gods. And all of this sounds so bizarre, but so really amazing at the same time that I'm really keen to read and understand if this story is down my alley or a little bit too dark for my taste. But I reckon the pacing, it's fast, it's epic, and the characters are nuanced, so it really sounds fairly good. If you read it, let me know down below if you believe it's also something that other people will enjoy. I cannot wait to see what you think about these. In the top 13, lots of people have still read First Law by Joe Abercrombie and have loved it. It's not personally my favorite, although I've just read the first book, but what can we say about this story? Very character driven. We will follow different perspectives. The main one that I at least loved was of Glokta, this man that has a terrible past, and he is now kind of like a shell of a man, but he is kind of like the justice in here, and we will be following this realm where there's a lot of politics involved. There are a potential war that it's about to be unfolded, and the plot moves fairly slow, at least in the first book, but it seems that it picks up in the second one and people really loves it. In position number 12, we have Fourth Wing. This is a viral sensation right now, and I reckon that if I've asked this now, probably way more people would have said it. This is a military setting meets dragons, meets romance, and it has, again, stolen the heart of both fantasy readers, fantasy romance readers. I particularly really enjoyed the read. I think it is very engaging. It was fascinating to follow, and it really hooked me to the pages. I think this will become the next A Court of Thorns and Roses. How quickly this book just got popular in such a short amount of time, it's mind-blowing. It still has a great rating in Goodreads, and I really enjoyed it. The thing is that I think it is very similar to The Aurelian Cycle by Rosaria Munda, which I actually enjoyed way more. It has way less romance, and I really adored it. But Fourth Wing, it's definitely in the top reads for lots of people, so if you are in for a little bit of dragons and romance, just give it a try. In position number 11, we have The Lies of Locke Lamora, and I only read the first book, which I enjoyed. It isn't your typical fantasy book. It is, yes, a massive heist at its core, and it is, again, yes, great family fun vibes, great banter, but it is not typical because you will have a lot of flashbacks, and it is a little bit jarring to read, at least it was for me, because when I was kind of like in the heat of the moment, then flashback, and it really made sense in time, but it took me a solid minute to get into that vibe, although I reckon this is one of Murphy's favorite, and it is popular for a reason. It is very funny, it is very dynamic, and it is in a way very unforgettable, and I will keep reading this series. In the top 10, we have also a new release of this year, and I am dying to get my hands in this book, and that is The Adventures of Amina Al-Tirafi. This is by the same author as the Devabat trilogy, and this is not a surprise, but it seems that it is great world building, great character, and a story that is incredibly fast-paced, very adventurous. In this case, we will be following Amina, and she is this middle-aged woman. She has been a pirate all of her life, and she is about to retire, close shop, but then she receives an offer that she cannot deny, and it seems that things are not as easy as she expected, and the story unfolds from there. But it seems that for a lot of people it was fascinating, it was very easy to read, and it was honestly a joy. In position number 9 we have Red Rising, which, yes, like, I adored Red Rising. I've only read the first trilogy though, but I am mind blown that I haven't picked this up before. Great characters, stakes that are incredibly high, and a pacing that goes very, very fast. It's very dystopian, and we will talk about this society that it's broken down in different layers, and at the lower level we have the red ones, and at the top we'll have the golden ones, and each of these layers are really structured in a way that you really have like what you have to do, who you are, and they are even physically less or more. And we will follow the story of Darrow, who is one of these red ones, as he kind of like wants to go into the golden ones, infiltrate them and break them from within. It's a story full of twists and turns, and it's consuming. It's very tiring at some points because you need all of that stamina to read, to follow, and you won't forget this. In position number 8 we have Secret Project number 1, Sotras of the Emerald Sea. This is a very charming standalone, and I'm not surprised about these making it into the best book for lots of people. Personally, it also made it into my top 10, and it's just something that it's very easy to read. It's very whimsical. In here, it's Hoy the narrator, and he has this touch to the story that will keep everything very whimsical, fairy tale-esque, and it's honestly very cute and hilarious. We will follow Tress, and this is kind of like a twist from The Princess Bride, as she is gonna be the one finding her love and making sure that he is back. But at its core is a story about pirates, and we will keep the main things that Sanderson does outstandingly, which is the world building and the magic and how the characters interact. There's a very charismatic crew also in this story. It is not as incredible as Secret Project 3 in my opinion, but this is fantastic, and really if you want something light that will just bring you a smile to your face and that reads super fast, give Tress a try. In position number 7 we have Engines of Empire, and this has been pitched so many times by Elliot Brooks that I wasn't really surprised when this book came time and time again. Also the second book, Engines of Chaos, came pretty frequently, and what can I say? It sounds really, really good, and I also got it on my Kindle, so I will get to it this summer, no doubt. It's supposed to be a blend of Game of Thrones plus Final Fantasy. It's supposed to be very political, fairly adventurous, and it sounds really down my alley. In the top 6, we have a favorite of mine, Piranesi. This is a standalone that is very short. It is technically fantasy realism, so it is not your typical fantasy world where you will have this incredible magic and this mesmerizing arc of the character, a chosen one. It's not that. This is very character driven. We will mainly follow the perspective of Piranesi as he finds himself in this massive house where he does not really understand why it is so massive, why it's so big, and why he is almost alone. This is a story that talks about good characters, of a mystery at its core, and it's told in a way that it's very introspective, and it won't be for everyone. I personally really enjoyed it, but I reckon it is fairly different. And getting into the top 5, we have The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. I am so happy that this book and something from Gaiman was recommended. This is one of my favorites from him as well, and it is again magical realism. It is very unique. It is told under the perspective of a child, and it's kind of like a regression. We will follow this man that will need to go to his childhood house because of a funeral, and while getting there he will start to remember things from when he was a child, and then the story will kick off. And so we will see how a 7-year-old child processed something that happened that seems pretty magical, pretty unique, but in a way really spoke to me. I think that everyone will get something different from this story, and the moment in which you read it will bring something new to the table, and really adored it. In position number 4, we have multiple times recommended the Lifeship trilogy by Robin Hobb, and that was actually the reason why I started picking it up, and I can say that picked the first one, Ship of Magic, and yes, it also made it into my top 10. It's actually like really up high. I'm not usually a fan of Robin Hobb. I found her writing usually very slow and at times slightly boring.
Sorry.
But this one, not the case. It is fascinating premise with incredible characters, not likable, but at the same time you root for them. And the premise that we will have these ships that can quicken, that can awaken if different generations of a certain family die within that ship was fascinating. Yes, it is slow, but it's slow in a way that was still very mesmerizing. I couldn't stop reading in a way that I was surprised. It is really good. In the top 3, we have time and time again the Greenbone Saga, which yes, 100% agree. And I think this is something that it's going both for Reddit and also BookTube. It is not still as popular outside this bubble, because if you go and check this out on Goodreads, it's not as popular, but really, if you haven't picked it already, please do. It is phenomenal. We will follow these 2 bands fighting for the control of the Jade, and Jade is able to grant these people special powers. But this is in essence a story that will have lots of politics, lots of strategy, and a lot of family drama. That's the key to it. Really well fleshed out. I love them. Each book had something that spoke to me in a way that was so great, that felt so vivid, and it is a masterpiece beginning to end. I was not at all interested in a story that was pitched as for fans of The Godfather, but it turns out that I loved it. So just give this one a try, because it is honestly very good. In the top 2 and recommended all over, we got The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu, and yes, I am already reading it. See, I'm starting with The Grace of Kings. The story, it's epic in scope. It is already concluded and it has fans all over. It doesn't matter if you like grimdark, if you like epic fantasy. It seems that this is it for a lot of people, especially the second book. It appears to be a masterpiece, and as I can say as of now, and I'm around 15% into the book, it is very interesting premise. We are talking about this empire and how it is deconstructed and trying to be constructed and conquered again. We will follow lots of different characters, which is taking me a solid minute to get into it, but it is written in a way that feels that it will steal my heart, and it also feels that I will suffer more than one emotional punch, and hopefully I will love it as much as lots of people here is loving it. But the book that was recommended more often
by far,
like it appeared time and time again, and everyone was like, hell yeah, that is The Will of the Many. In fact, I was so piqued about how many times this book appeared in this list that I actually read it, and it is the best book that I've read this year so far. It is outstanding. It is mesmerizing, and please read it. It is phenomenal. It is a story that it's really reminiscent from Red Rising, but better. And I got this comment lots of times,
and I can agree.
We will follow the premise of this society that it's again divided in different layers, and everything falls down to the lower levels, kind of like granting their soul, their will, kind of like their magic to the upper levels, and the magic it's built upon them. And one day we will follow this character, and he will start a path of trying to get into the school and try to win a role. We don't really know much about what are his goals in the beginning, but the story, it is so well done. I really resented having all the responsibilities. Loved it beginning to end. Cannot recommend enough. Okay, and these were the top 20 recommendations that I got. Please let me know down below which are those that you would recommend if weren't mentioned here, or if you said like, yes, that book was great. I'm sure this will help other readers in case they go to the comments. And thank you for watching.